Mrs. Burns, roll call.
Mr. Sullivan?
Present.
Mrs. Hallenbeck?
Present.
Mr. Allen?
Present.
Mrs. Brochus?
Present.
Mrs. Lafferty?
Present.
Mrs. Marshall?
Present.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Here.
Mr. Sporny?
Here.
And Mrs. Waldbeiser?
Here.
We have a quorum.
The board met in executive session this evening prior to this meeting to discuss matters of employment, issues related to collective bargaining, matters related to salary, student placements, and current litigation. Mrs. Burns, any announcements?
No announcements.
Mr. Bowman, superintendent's report?
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. Last Thursday evening, I had the pleasure of attending our annual STEAM Expo at Neshaminy High School. Again, a tremendous turnout, hundreds of kids and families enjoying dozens of activities and exhibits for our students, staff, and guests from community organizations. This year was a terrific animal habitat activity at the high school's preschool lab for the youngest students, which was prepared and beautifully decorated by the child development and parenting students at Neshaminy High School. This event is a real showcase not only for our science, technology, engineering, art, and math programs at Neshaminy High School, but also a great example of the great things we can do for our kids when we work together as a community to generate excitement amongst our younger students about the opportunities that they will have as they move through Neshaminy School District and beyond. I want to thank Mr. David Jeanette for his hard work, again, in organizing this massive event, and to all the teachers, high school students, and many guests who prepared and ran the activities that make the STEAM Expo a night that we all really look forward to every year. Great job. April is Autism Awareness Month, and our schools are celebrating with activities that promote neurodiversity, inclusion, and kindness. Ben Hartraft, an autism awareness advocate and speaker who works with the Philadelphia Eagles and other businesses and groups around the Philadelphia region, has been visiting some of our schools, delivering a very energetic message during assemblies to help our students better understand the autism spectrum. Ben has been absolutely amazing. I get emails from parents whose children go home and talk about Ben and the impact Ben had on them. He's been really great. He's done all of our elementary schools so far this year. Next year, we will move him into the middle schools and the high school as well. Just a great advocate for autism awareness, so we want to thank him. Yesterday, we had a visit from two representatives from Giant Supermarket in Feasterville who came to announce that their company is donating $15,211.78 to the district to help us fight food insecurity. The donations came from two of their area stores, the Flowers Mill Giant and the one in Feasterville, whose customers chose to round up their purchases as a donation for the past 3 months. So when you get that question that says, would you like to round up your purchase, a lot of that money has come to Neshaminy School District. This money will be used to help stock our school food pantries and for other food support programs that benefit our students here in Neshaminy. We thank Giant and their customers for this much needed help with our effort to make sure that none of our students goes hungry. So thank you again, Giant, and that is all I have, Mr. Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. Bowman. Mrs. Burns, public comment?
There were no sign-ups.
Okay. That'll bring us to our action items. 2.01, Mrs. Waldbeiser.
I'd like to make a motion, 2.01 Pearl S. Buck Elementary closure. Whereas the Board of Directors of the Neshaminy School District do, pursuant to Article 7, Section 780 of the Pennsylvania Public School Code of 1949, as amended, resolve that a public hearing of the board will be held at the district offices boardroom of Maple Point Middle School, 2250 Langhorne Yardley Road, Langhorne, PA 19047, on Tuesday, May 7th, 2024, upon the question of whether or not to permanently close Pearl S. Buck Elementary School, located at 143 Top Road, Levittown, Middletown Township, Bucks County, Pennsylvania 19056, at the end of the calendar year 2024. Be it further resolved, the administration of the school district and the solicitor hereby authorized and directed to advertise the public hearing and to take all action required by law to be taken in conjunction with the holding of the public hearing. The public will be invited to attend and participate in the hearing as permitted by law.
Thank you, Mrs. Waldbeiser. There's a motion on the floor. Johnny, got a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Allen. Comments or questions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 9-0. 2.02, Mrs. Marshall.
I'd like to make a motion, 2.02, revised 2023 to 2024 school calendar, noting graduation date. Whereas there was no inclement weather forcing the closing of schools during the 2023 to 2024 school year, and now therefore be it resolved that the Neshaminy Board of School Directors hereby approves the attached school calendar, which maintains the scheduled last day for students and teachers to be June 14th, 2024. Be it further resolved that June 12th, 2024 is designated as the date for the Neshaminy High School graduation.
Thank you, Mrs. Marshall. There's a motion on the floor. Can I get a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Hollenbeck. Comments or questions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 9-0. 2.03, Mr. Sporny.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion, 2.03, appointment of treasurer. Whereas each year during the month of May, the board must elect a treasurer to serve for the year beginning July 1st. And whereas the appointed treasurer for the 2023-24 school year, Donald B. Irwin Jr., resigned, now therefore be resolved that the Neshaminy Board of Directors hereby approves Deborah Clayholden, Business Administrator, to be appointed treasurer of the Neshaminy Board of School Directors for the remainder of the 2023-24 school year as of April 22nd, 2024, with no additional compensation associated with the appointment.
Motion on the floor. Can I get a second?
Second.
Any comments or questions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 9-0. 2.04, administrative appointments, and we have one tonight. Resolved that the Neshaminy Board of School Directors hereby approves the following appointments of administrative staff. Mr. James Kelly, replacing Colin Trickel as the acting assistant principal at Neshaminy High School. Can I get a second? Second. Second by Mr. Allen. Comments, questions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 9-0.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Mr. Kelly. Mrs. Hollenbeck?
I'd like to make a master motion for 2.05 administrative leaves of absence, 2.06 certificated retirements and resignations. I'll say the names at the end. 2.07 certificated appointments, 2.08 certificated leaves of absence, 2.09 certificated revised leaves of absence, 2.10 supporting retirements, resignations, 2.11 support appointments, 2.12 support leaves of absence, 2.13 support revised leaves of absence, and 2.14 first reading of policy. Oh, I'm pulling that out. Oh, I rescind that. I'm not putting in 2.14, so it's 2.05 through 2.13.
We have a motion on the floor. Can I get a second? Second. By Mrs. Walbeezer. Any comments, questions, observations?
With the motions, I did want to point out the 2.06 certificated retirements and resignations. We have several people I'd like to recognize. Anna Hunton, 31 years. Alyssa Mele with 26 and a half years. Kimberly Phillips with 31 years. Linda Stoll with 16.7 years. Wendy Uzelac, I apologize if I'm pronouncing your name wrong, 21 years, and Frank Varrell with 29.4 years, Sharon White with 17 years, and also on 2.10, the support retirement resignations, Carol Curry with 19.6 years, and Nancy Robbins with 19.8 years.
Thank you, Mrs. Hollenbeck. We have a second. No, we already have one.
Yeah, we already can.
Yeah. But thank you anyway. We have a second. We have a second. All right, so go to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motions pass 9-0. 2.14, first reading of policy. Mrs. Lafferty?
I'd like to make a motion, 2.14, first reading of policy, whereas the Board Policy Committee reviewed the policies listed below at the March 20th, 2024 committee meeting, and whereas the board policies listed below are being recommended for a policy first reading, now therefore be it resolved that Neshaminy School Board of Directors reviewed the policies listed below and recommend a second reading and final adoption at the April 23rd, 2024 public board meeting. There are four policies for first reading: Section 113, 113.3, 126, and 201.
There's a motion on the floor. Can I get a second? Second by Mrs. Brochus. Any comments, questions, observations? All in favor? Aye. Motion passes 9-0. Items for approval at the public board meeting: 3.01, routine business matters; 3.02, acceptance of the 2022-2023 audit report; 3.03, Brett Denovi and Associates Contracted Services; 3.04, overnight trips; 3.05, Sunday facility usage; 3.06, summer programs; 3.07, Head Start, Pre-K and Early Learning Center programs, MOU with BCIU. That brings us to the committee reports. Business operations, Mrs. Hollenbeck.
We had a business operations meeting last Wednesday, the 3rd of April, where we took a very initial look at the budget. It was very informative about how we stand and what kind of gap we have and how we can overcome that. Our next meeting is going to be May 22nd, where we will get into the finer details of that. So if anybody would like to come out and hear about the budget process and how it works, May 22nd, 6:30 in this room.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Hollenbeck. Educational Development, Mr. Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. The Educational Development Committee met on Tuesday, March 12th, and discussed the following agenda items. We approved a new course proposal for the addition of an Intro to Child Development course for the 2025-2026 school year. We discussed the 2024 summer programs, which are the extended school year, Neshaminy High School Summer School Credit Recovery, the Elementary MTSS Intensive Intervention Program, the Summer PASS, Intensive Learning Lab for English Language Development, Summer Stock. And we also discussed the MTSS lead teacher recommendation, which that will be moved to the Finance Committee. Also, the high school block schedule exploration updates and the Neshaminy School District Comprehensive Plan updates. Our next scheduled Educational Development Committee meeting is scheduled for May 14th, 2024, 6:30 in this room.
Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez. Facilities and Planning, Mr. Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. The Facility and Planning Committee met on March 14th at 6:30 in this room. Couple things we discussed was we received an update on the high school field house. The committee has been leaning towards prefab versus a stick build. Our architect, Mr. Downey, also agreed with that, so we got some numbers to that, and we discussed timeline, when that would be all completed. And then, of course, we sent them back with some questions left, which we should be able to, we will get back this week, the meeting coming up. We asked them about some insulation, some site work, including removing or moving the memorial wall, whether the cost was included in that. We're getting there. We're nailing it down. Ms. Hollenbeck brought up the missing pavement down by the ball fields. There's a path that stopped short. We discussed completing that And then that also opened up the conversation about parking and paving some of our fields out that are right now, I believe there's special, preferred parking, and it's all grass, so, we're still discussing that. Every time you open one conversation, it leads to another conversation. I had asked for an update on our preventative maintenance program that's based on the School Dude, computer program that we have. Mr. Congdon brought us up to date on how quickly the tickets open, how they're handled, and the closing of them, such as if a teacher needs a new light switch, and how quickly that can get resolved. It was just a question. We seemed to have started it. Then we had a few changes in that department, and we just needed an update as to, because we want to stay on top of our preventative maintenance, especially our building equipment. The next meeting will be April 11th, 2024, 6:30 in this room. And as I said, a couple of those items that we had discussed, particularly the field house, will be, hopefully we will be resolved and bring something to this board to vote on. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. Policy, Mrs. Lafferty.
Our next meeting is May 16th at 6:30 in the boardroom, and some of our agenda items will be continued discussions of Policy Series 100 for pupils, and along with advertising and facility usage policies.
Thank you. Representative reports, the IU Board, Mrs. Walbeezer.
No new business at this time. The next meeting will be April 16th.
Thank you. Neshaminy Education Fund. Okay.
Yes, thank
Mr.
you,
Sworn.
Mr. Sullivan, the Neshaminy Education Foundation. Nomination applications for the third annual Neshaminy Alumni Achievement Awards are now available on the NEF website, www.neshaminy.org/NEF. Anybody can submit a nomination. The award recognizes lifetime success in business, career, community, or public service by any Neshaminy alumni. Award recipients will be chosen over the summer and a ceremony held at the high school in November. The next NEF board meeting will be held here at Maple Point on Monday, April 15th at 4 p.m. Members of the community are welcome to attend. And last thing for the NEF, not written on here, is just a thank you for the NEF for taking part in the STEAM Expo at the high school last week. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Sworn. PSBA Liaison, Mrs. Marshall.
Just one thing to report, that PSBA is making school districts aware that the Pennsylvania Department of Education is opening a school environmental repairs program from May 1st through June 30th. Schools can apply for funding to abate or remediate any environmental hazards such as lead in water sources, asbestos and mold inside school buildings, and that is through the Pennsylvania Department of Education, should that apply to any of our facilities.
Thank you, Mrs. Marshall. Tech School, Mr. Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. Tech School Joint Board met March 25th, 2024. I want to start out with recognizing our Students of the Month from our Neshaminy School District. That would be our 11th grader, Austin Townsend, and a Skills for Life student, Hannah Covey. Couple of the things that we discussed at our joint board meeting involved the continuing facility upgrades over there and where we are. But one interesting thing that came up was the auxiliary building that sits off to the side, close to the New Falls Road side of that property. We began discussions of how to make use of that. Currently, it is just sitting there. As we all know, we have trying to get students sitting, and the more space we have, the more students we can get into tech. So we began just opening discussions of what we want to do with that space. There wasn't a whole lot else on that agenda other than, sorry, I lost my place. I did want to break mention of I'm sorry. Lost my place on that, so I guess it wasn't that important. The next meeting of the Tech Board will be, again, almost there. Next meeting, come on, April 25th, 2024, over at the Tech School. I apologize, I'm out of sorts tonight. Thank you. That concludes my report.
Thanks, Mr. Allen. Okay, that brings us to the closing of the meeting. This is the second public comment session, so does anyone want to approach the podium? As I figured. Any future topics? Any board comment?
I just wanted to, I believe last week was Transportation Week, Transportation Day for all the bus drivers. I just want to say thank you for all the service that you provide to our students. My daughter doesn't benefit from that, she's a walker. But overall, I think, we're lucky to have the people on board that we do. And I just want to say thank you to them and congratulations, welcome aboard.
Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez. Anyone else?
Yep. I would just also like to acknowledge Donna Moran Griff is the superintendent's secretary, and her retirement notice was accepted by the board effective July 1. So she's had about 6 years with us, does a tremendous job in my office, so I greatly appreciate what you do, and I am happy for you in retirement, so enjoy.
Thank you. Okay. Before we close, I just wanted to, I think on behalf of the board, we would like to express our condolences to Mr. Bowman on the passing of Dr. Bowman, his father, who was a longtime administrator at Neshaminy and did many great things for this district. So you are in our prayers and you have our condolences. Thank you. With that, I'd like to make a motion to close the meeting. Second. All in favor? Meeting adjourned.